Jessica, dis my so lekker. I think we're going to go over to English so that we can make sure that everybody can see the video. And even though both of us are Afrikaans speaking, English is very delicious sometimes. So if we do stumble over our words, we'll correct them as we go. I just want to really say what an incredible journey it has been to meet you. I met your mother first. It's like how I met your mother. But I met your mother first. And when was it? In 2020? When was it?
Yeah, maybe 21,
2020, in that space. So I met your mother first, and she just spoke about you, and I said, no, you can tell me, we can make a plan. And you got hold of my number, but I want you to tell us, where were you living at that stage?
Yeah, we were living in a mining town in the Northern Cape between Springbok and Pofadder. It's called Occupational. And I was trying to be the best support system for my son at that stage, knowing that we aren't giving him everything we can. We were driving to Cape Town all the time for OT, and at that stage I was kind of his OT because she was telling me over video call what to do, and I just came to a point where I thought, I can't, I need a village, I need some help. And I remembered my mom said your name, and I told my husband, I said, we're moving to Vanderbijl for Jackie Collins.
No pressure.
Yeah. Because she's going to help my son, she's going to help our family. It was a very emotional decision because my husband still had to work there, so we had to come without him and trust that Jackie Collins was going to help. And it was the biggest leap of faith, which has yielded massive rewards for us.
Yeah. And I want to highlight the fact that you are a mother of 2 children, and I'm a mother of 1. And you have a special story when it comes to being a mother. You have walked many roads that is not often followed by many mothers because they don't have to, or their situations are different. But during our conversations, we realized just how vulnerable mothers are, because you were in Occupational, which is everything that you had your family there with you, but you had your son, and your son needed some extra support at that stage. Were you pregnant with your daughter at that stage as well? Yeah. So you were pregnant as well.
Yeah.
And it was, if I can just imagine feeling, I have to drive to Cape Town all the time, and I have my child that have difficult sensory processing components, and everybody you have to listen to. And as a mother, we spoke about it previously, is everybody has an opinion when you become a mother.
Yeah.
So you and I started talking about how we're going to support mothers. And you did a very interesting research study, and you are not just a mother. You are an incredible, empowering counselor when it comes to maternal health. So I want you just to give a bit of an idea of your research and what was your focus points in your research, and then we'll start building around that, why we are talking today about the Mommy Me support system, where I want you to put the verbs for us into context. And as we're going to go through it, we'll reverse refer back to it.
We decided that our project or our class is going to be based on 3 key words that are verbs. The first being cradle, like cradle your baby. Connect, being connect with yourself. And then flourish as a unit, you and your baby, you and your family.
Yes.
But it is important for mom to be flourishing and for baby to be flourishing, for the unit to be flourishing.
It is very, very important because, and I want us to just think back. When I got pregnant, the first book I got was the Mommy magazine. And the mommy was sitting there, and it's so peaceful and serenity, and a child is next to her, and she feels fine. And everybody wants to, you just want to have this child that you can actually cradle. And I was like so excited, and I thought, yo, this is going to be an incredible process. But then reality kicked in. It was a bit of it was an incredible shock. So you did a research study on maternal health.
Yes.
And what was the biggest part that you focused on?
So my research was focused on, it was like a qualitative study of moms telling me their story of their pregnancy, the story of their birth, and then their story postpartum. And I was trying to identify common themes that are universally experienced by mothers in today's modern day mothering environment. Yes. And really what came out of the study was I didn't feel prepared, even if they went to prenatal classes, even if they read all the books and everything, they didn't feel prepared, they didn't feel supported, and they didn't feel empowered and capable. And from that research, this kind of was stirring in my heart. And I was so glad when you approached me about it, because when I did the research, I felt so like I have this nugget of information, and how do I share it, and how do I help other moms benefit
find themselves,
yes, from
connect,
this.
To be able to connect and cradle and flourish.
Yes, exactly.
And this is where the whole spontaneity became about this, because if we think about recent, you see on the news, the mother in New Zealand that actually killed her children. And what I did is, when I saw it on the news, I saw that since 2016, she started sending messages to her husband of cry outs for help.
Distress.
And I see most of the time in the practice mothers, when children are a bit older, so they might be over a year old, or they're on their way to being 2 year old, 18 months, 2 year olds. And then we have severe sensory, regulation, and emotional difficulties, not just with the child, because every mom comes and tells me, as long as my child's okay. But that's not how it works. You also have to be okay.
Yes.
And 99.9% of my energy and time goes to the children. And then by the time that I know that I have to approach this mom, they are sometimes so unapproachable because of the stigma that has been put onto being a mother. Because I can remember how my mother said to me, it will come naturally. And what I didn't know is that, I knew later, I did know that, but at that stage she tried to comfort me. But she had severe postpartum depression. And moms don't, when we look at even how they work, when the baby is born in hospital, I mean, that whole, did you have a C-section?
Yes, yeah.
I wanted to have normal birth, but I have some deformities that I cannot help. God made me that way, so I had to have a C-section. And lying there and feeling completely, I don't know what's going on. So my biggest thing was, I said, and also, and I'll make myself vulnerable with that, I lost babies before I had this baby. And I had to stay in bed up until 22 weeks before I could actually start moving again. And I was so afraid. The fear was overtaken. And when you have gone through something like that, but you have also had hormones pumped into you to get pregnant, and it's just such a huge component. And I see a lot of moms that went through in vitro and went through quite a lot of trauma And then luckily we have this little baby, and they are so happy, but they forget about themselves.
Yes.
And for me, the first 3 months is the most important part of monitoring a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And what shocked me, and I said to my husband, I'm going to say this, is when we watched the news and we saw about this lady in New Zealand, his first words to me, what kind of a mother would do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually taken aback by him, and I thought, how could you say that? I said to him, you know, that child is born. Most of, I don't know, dads, I'm sorry, that's why we have to have this conversation. They believe that for 4 months we are on holiday.
Ja.
Né?
Yes.
Jy's by die huis.
Ja.
4 months, it was always 3 months, now
Ja.
4 months. So you're not on holiday. That child is trying to figure out how they fit into the world. You're trying to arrange your life around this child and dealing with an immature sensory nervous system. So when we started talking about that, our first thing that was so interesting to me is about how you spoke about birth stories. Because everybody's different.
Yeah.
And I want you to touch on that for me in terms of birth stories that really also gave you the incentive to say, Jackie, we have to go forward with this because your words are so profound. I really like the way you say it. And I don't want to change them around because those words are really the core why we said, let's connect to get to the parents to flourish and to be able to cradle each other.
Yes, birth stories are incredibly important, and really through history, it is how mothers passed on their knowledge of looking after their babies to their daughters. And everyone has an idea about what their birth should look like, which puts a lot of pressure on them also. And I've spoken to people who've had different birth experience, from scheduled C-sections to emergency C-sections to, home births. And everyone, even if it is the most beautiful, serene experience, which is, I think, maybe 1%, there is a form of trauma. There is a form of
the vulnerability.
Yes, being so vulnerable. After that, everything else is almost easy because you are so extremely exposed. Exactly. And it has to be processed.
Yes. You showed how big the wound is. Can you show us how big that wound is?
Yeah, this is what I want dads to understand. Dads who think mom is on holiday. No, she's not. She's recovering from a massive medical experience because the wound left inside of the womb after the placenta is removed is dinner plate sized. That is what you are recovering from. If we had a dinner plate sized wound on the outside, no one would expect of us to clean all the diapers, do the dishes, have
and
food
if you had
cooked.
a normal birth, it seems that people think it's easier, but you still have that wound.
Yes.
When you've had a C-section, after any other type of surgery like that, you would have been not allowed to do something for at least 6 to 8 weeks, picking up. So you have to stand up out of the bed in a certain way. And you have to do that 550,000 times if your child is a colic baby, or if something happens and you're alone. So that wound is an incredible wound to recover from. And people just, because over generations, I think women are so resilient. There's some moms that they make it look so easy, but it's not. We don't see the back of the door.
And just because women are resilient doesn't mean they should have to be resilient.
Exactly.
Many cultures, after birth, you go to your mom's house and you stay there for 40 days. In some cultures, 3 months.
Yeah.
It allows the mom and the baby to cocoon, to recover, that 4th trimester that they speak of. It's so important. And also in my research, I found that by 6 weeks is when mom only has a follow-up visit after birth. she has that one visit which primarily focuses on her wound and
Baby's health, and is baby gaining weight?
Yeah,
or is it
and then you
milk?
go, by that point, babies have had 4 appointments, 4 thorough medical appointments, being weighed, everything about if they're getting enough food, all of those kinds of things. And moms aren't even screened for, are you okay?
No.
Are you coping? Even if you don't have postpartum depression.
And most moms will not even say they have it.
Yeah.
They will think, I'm just not good enough.
Yeah, and getting back to that lady from New Zealand, people think the postpartum depression is only a couple of months after birth. It can last up to 7 years after giving birth.
Yeah.
It's very severe, and in South Africa we have a very high rate. 60% of mothers experience postpartum depression. It's extremely high by world standards, but it's concerning.
A reality.
But even if you are part of the 40% who don't have postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, you are still coping with a lot. You are still going through healing physically. Your hormones for the first year are still in recovery. You are adjusting to your new role as a parent. Of course, you are mostly concerned about your baby. And as a husband and wife unit, you are also recovering from the shock.
Yeah.
And through all of that, who's guiding us? We've lost our village.
Yes, I do believe that in our new culture, and I've experienced it quite often with moms where I have visited them in hospital, where babies would have been extremely emotional or dysregulated. The moms are so vulnerable. The first thing that they tell me is, I can do this. And I ask them, do you have anybody at home? Because daddy's going to be home for 5 days. Who else are going to take care of you? And they say, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. And I know they're not going to be fine. And I want to share a story with you. I went back to work 6 weeks after my child was born because I had to go back to work. And in that stage, the lady that worked for me for many years, she was like another mother to me as well, passed away the week before my daughter was born. So I had to make a plan because I do have family members, but my village, you don't know how to organize them.
Yeah,
You've
exactly.
got no idea. And having all the knowledge literaturally, when it comes to being a mom, I was lost in translation. I was completely lost. And I thought I will only breastfeed, and I didn't have milk. So when I got home, I had to figure out where's the bottles and how do I do this and where do I put this nappies? What is happening here? And I had to have this bin, and I had to have that pram, and I had to have there's so many things that becomes so important that is so not important. But in any way, when I went back to work, I actually felt so guilty because my mind was busy. So when I came back home tonight, I just picked up where I left off in the morning, and that my little girl had severe colic. She cried a lot, and I had a friend at that stage, and she was my colleague, and I will always be so grateful to her. Tarine, she was amazing. The one evening I phoned her and I said to her, I don't know what to do. And the next moment she was there. And at that stage, my husband came home, and she showed me how to bath my baby. And I know I did it in the hospital, but she didn't like the temperature changes. And in being a SIOT, I'm supposed to know. I can never read. So that's where this came from for me, because I had to find a way to take care of my child. But she showed me, let's just have things smell the same. Let's try and get the olfactory nerve ready. Let's try and get her, where does she feel the most happiest? She feels the happiest when she's upright. So obviously after our conversing, we realized, but this is silent reflux. And we did tests and everything, but it was definitely silent reflux. And then I could move on and make a plan. But as she and my husband walked outside, he asked her, do you think she's okay? And she actually kind of exploded and said, no, she's not on holiday. She's a working mom that's recovering from a baby. And you are also part of her family. So I must say, I have a wonderful husband. At that stage, it was Kukadure. So 1 o'clock in the morning, he'll be watching Kukadure and doing this with a pram so that I can just have some sleep. But if I wasn't someone that told me you are not okay, and I made a plan to get out of it, but realizing when I think back now, if I only knew.
Yeah, exactly.
If somebody could tell me. And I also, I shared this with my mom the other day, and I was so shocked when she agreed with me. She had 3 children. All of us normal birth. She had more milk than any Jersey koe I know. So when the other moms had babies, they come and have. She would nurse them as well because she had so much milk.
Oh, wow.
And we were all very small babies, except my brother. He was a big baby. But I said to you know what, Mom, when you're pregnant, everybody's fussing around you. Yeah, so are you okay? Put up your foot, my dear.
Baby shower, all the fuss,
you're the middle point of attention. And then in that hospital, the first evening, the nurses brought me my baby and said, I don't know what to do. How the heck do I know what to do? I just got out of surgery. I've got no clue what to do. So I had my baby with me and she never stopped screaming. And I didn't know what to do. Yeah, but I felt so powerless, and I didn't ask for help. And when I got home, I felt like, jy weet mos nou. Doen jou ding. You're a mom. It comes naturally. Do it. And I was like, what do I do? I've got no idea.
Exactly.
And I didn't have my mom with me. She went home. My parents-in-law, I thought, ek soek my spasie vir 'n nasie. And at that same stage, my husband decided we're going to change the floors. So we had to move to my in-laws' house. And one evening, my daughter was crying so much. And I couldn't believe my husband didn't hear this. And when I took the blankets down, he had his shooting earphones on silent. Nah? I kicked him with that cesarean off the bed against the wall. I said, hoor jy nie? And he said, I need to work tomorrow. So that's part of the narratives that I think that we have to address.
Yes.
And if you have a safe space where there's no mommy shaming, mommy blaming, or blame shifting, because I don't want anybody to feel guilty, but to realize that moms are vulnerable. And that's where our plan for this connection, I think, just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And for me, the first 3 months, I start seeing, here comes the depression. And then from 3 months to 6 months, that's the next part. Because now mom is back to work. And that child is at a nursery or whatever. So I would like us to really introduce to Van der Bijl Park. Wonderlike plek. Very south van Joburg.
Yeah.
We live in the very, very south of Joburg. So we are going to have a time and space where we're going to have a environment for moms to come and connect. And we will share more and more info as we go along. There's a few things. One of it is education.
Yes.
Communication. And at the end of the day, helping to pick up on my side, you focusing on moms and making sure that they get there. Us, obviously, we're all going to do it together. But to actually, for me, it's very important to see the first 3 months of that baby's development. Because in therapy, if we can help a child the first 6 months to 12 months, then it is unbelievable how that child just flourishes. So if we can catch it earlier, it is so much easier to help that child with emotional sensory regulation, and also have the parents empowered enough to know wanneer is hy stout and when is it a meltdown.
What you're saying is so important. Early intervention. Early intervention should be the standard of care. We shouldn't wait until a kid is 2 years old and melting down, or like in my case, my son was 2 years old when I realized, okay, something's wrong, and went to see a doctor. So 2 years, both of us were struggling.
Yeah.
But if there was someone for us from the first week, to someone's maybe it takes an OT and a counselor and your mother-in-law, and if those things were there from the beginning, it would have been a different 2-year picture.
It would have been a picture to actually just know that you're human.
Exactly. And I saw that because of my son, my daughter, I could bring to you at 9 months because she was bear crawling, and now she's thriving.
Yeah.
She had a bit of a developmental delay, and now she's ahead.
She's far ahead. She even makes organizations there for people what they are supposed to do because they are in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Exactly.
And that self-confidence is what I want for every child. And for me, it's a process of understanding the sensory systems, understanding how it affects your emotional processing. And at the end of the day, I did my master's in early childhood intervention. And most of the children, as I said, I see them much later in their lives. And because some children's parents might have more support or less, or a child is just realizing they have to survive. We're also talking now again here. There's typical developing families and typical births, and then there's difficult where a child is adopted, or there's a different path that way where it's a surrogate mother. Many different narratives can come up, and it's very important to address all of that and put it together in a nice, wonderful box and keep everybody secure, happy, and at the end of the day, an open channel towards communication. Because as soon as they do that, then we're going to have children that flourish and not have to be on any kind of crazy medication because of a thing that could have been picked up earlier. I don't say medication is wrong. Please don't take, and I'm a very big, there's a certain time and a certain space for everything. But that's not your first option. Your first option is to see how can we just help the family to regulate. And so many times, and that's why I also started this range, because every single mom, what can I do? And you know what? Just by bathing your child and having a specific way of getting them from hospital and to actually, and that's why I designed the Snooze and Snuggle. I wish you guys could just smell it, but the Snooze and Snuggle is such a lovely brand. It has a spray, and I'm going to just spray it. You just said, what did it smell like?
It smells like my baby.
It smells like your baby. It does smell like a baby, and that's why I made it. It's very soft. It's got a spray and an oil, and then also a bigger oil that we help you to teach you to do the baby massage in the therapy session. But to have something that goes with you to hospital that mom can actually put inside her bra, let her smell like mommy, so that when I'm not with you, mommy, I know where I am.
And the baby gets prepared for what their home they're going to is going. Because that first night at home for me I had a fright, because the nurses, they look after you in the hospital and they help and everything. And then that first night, everything smells funny to the baby. There's no more beeping and background white noise. It's quiet, it's dark, it smells funny. So having something that helps the baby transition from the hospital environment to the home environment.
And the reason why I use the aromatherapy side is the olfactory nerve is the only one that doesn't go through the thalamus. So the thalamus is the secretary of the brain. She's the only one that gets bypassed by this one. So that's like getting into the Oval Office very quickly. And if you have a positive experience in the Oval Office, you'll go there again. But if you have a negative experience, you're going to be fearful for certain things. And yes, there is diagnoses and there are things that we don't have control over. But there's ways to make life easier and help the family to become a unit and independent.
Because we almost feel like we have to struggle to earn the label of being a parent or being a good parent. But you really don't have to struggle. I mean, you will, but it shouldn't be the default.
No.
The default shouldn't be sacrifice. The default should be compromise. We are adjusting, and yes.
There's always a way. I always say there is a wealth of problem-solving ways. It's not a problem. It's just something that we do not know yet how to address. So let's just find the way to address it. And that's how, I don't want to take this as an example, but I love horses. Not every horse is an easy-ridden horse. You have to get to know what their sensory system likes before you can actually approach them. And then they give you their love and trust. And we want our children to trust us as a baby, so they can trust us as a teenager, to come and tell us when they're in trouble. And not us being the ones that are putting boundaries and they don't understand what's going on.
Exactly. Attachment is crucial. Attachment starts while the baby is in the womb and is really fast-tracked when the baby is the first 3 months and the first 1,000 days. It's very important. And saying that, I don't want to put pressure on moms to be thinking, oh, the first 1,000 days I must be the perfect mom and I must get everything.
Yeah, please,
we are here to educate and to support, but ultimately it is inside of you. You have everything inside of you to take care of your baby, as long as you're also willing to take care of yourself.
Yes.
Because as moms, we prioritize the baby, and that's very important for survival. But the most important thing for a child to thrive is having a healthy, present mother.
Yes.
Primary caregiver, parents.
And if that mother, whatever she needs, so that we can actually just give her ideas of how you build it in. Because the moment they start realizing that something as easy as, I like a cup of tea when I come home, that will regulate you. That will help you to be present. It's nothing that you bought or did or funkily got out of the sky. It's something easy. So that for me is very important, so that mom knows before that baby is born what calms you down. Who's going to make the food? What type of food does your family eat? Do you live in the Collins house that has a 5-menu course because everybody's eating other things? Or are you a household that is quite healthy driven? There's nothing wrong with that. But just make sure that you don't have to set the table while you have to bath the baby. And get the cooking done while your husband is getting in the garage and you haven't even washed your hair today. You hadn't had time to do that. And also practice having your baby stay with someone you trust and just go buy bread. Because that is what my friend said to me. I was so fearful. My grandmother came and helped me later on because my father said, Stacey, so my grandmother came and she said to me, stop it, because she's the only person I really listened to at that stage. So she said to me, stop it now, stop it. And I said, what? Because I wanted to wipe everything and I think it must be dirty. And I see it now, and it's because I was afraid she's going to get sick out of my working in a hospital environment and knowing what can happen. So there's so many things and such a wealth of knowledge between mothers. I think just to have that sharing, safe space, closed community, small group setting, I know that we are going to have an incredible little spark that becomes an incredible, wonderful fire to watch. Not burning down, giving heat and nurturing and love. Thank you, Jessica.
Thanks so much.
And thank you for being so willing to do this, because it's really, we are going to learn as we go. Every single mother is different. There's no recipe. So that's what I want moms to know as well. There's no recipe. There's no YouTube download. This is hoe jy dit doen, 1, 2, 3. There is, nobody did that in die kook en geniet. They didn't do it for us. So, and I have never seen a child born with a manual. I really do wish they have one.
But we can customize your care. We can customize around your needs and your family. I would really like to help mothers, empower mothers to speak speak up.
Yes.
And I will do it too. I will tell your husband. I will tell your husband for you. I will tell your mother-in-law for you. You want her there? Then we'll put her in the plan. She'll be there. You don't want her there? Then that's also fine. She won't be there.
Then we make a plan how you manage them, because
Yeah.
grandmothers and grandfathers have different set of rules.
Yes.
Sorry, nah?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just how
So
it is.
it's just how it is, and we have to be aware of it. We don't have to just submit, but we have to be aware of it. And the only thing that we want is for love to be present.
Yes.
Connection.
Yes.
Cradle, that word cradle. If you think about it, I always just imagine how a little one runs to their mom when something goes wrong. What's the first thing that we do? We pick them up and we cradle them, and we just hold them.
Yeah.
And there's so many different birthing stories that, and some of them are very sad. And also to deal with that, deal with the sadness.
Yes. Work through it.
Work through it. There's no way around it. Yeah. Thank you, Jessica, and I'm very excited. So we're excited to let everybody know, and we'll give through dates and times and everything. So as soon as it's ready, watch this space. And we are excited to meet you and really, really want to get to know who you are.